story by Mythic Tales of Africa. The village of Kura rested between rolling hills and golden plains, untouched by modernity's restless march. It was a place where the elders sat beneath the old baobab tree, weaving wisdom into words passed down through generations. The air was thick with the aroma of burning firewood and the earthiness of freshly harvested yams. Children ran barefoot across the dusty paths, their laughter echoing like music carried by the evening wind. Among them was Amina, a young woman with eyes as sharp as a hawk's and a heart brimming with dreams too big for the boundaries of her home. She had always known she was different. While other girls learned the art of pounding millets and weaving baskets, Amina immersed herself in books whenever she could find them. She listened intently to the village storyteller, memorizing the heroic tales of queens who defied tradition and warriors who carved their own destinies. She was determined that she too would write her own story. But life, as it often did, had its own plans. On the morning of the festival of the ancestral spirits, Amina was summoned to her father's hut. Baba Adebayo sat on his stool, his weathered hands resting upon his knees, his brows knitted with worry. He did not look up as she entered. Amina, my daughter, he finally spoke, voice laced with heaviness. You are of age now, and the time has come for you to fulfill a promise made long before you were born. Amina's breath caught in her throat. Her mother, standing behind her father with sorrow pulling in her eyes, refused to meet her gaze. A promise, Amina repeated, her voice barely above a whisper. Her father sighed deeply. Years ago, Chief Okon saved my life. I was drowning in debt, our family on the verge of ruin. He extended his hand, and in exchange, I pledged to him something greater than gold. He hesitated, as if struggling to find the right words. But Amina already knew. You promised him me, she said. Silence stretched between them, a chasm filled with unspoken regret and pain. He is a great man, Amina, her father continued, forcing confidence into his words. His wealth is vast, his power unmatched. You will live a life of comfort, a life beyond this village. Amina felt the walls closing in around her, as if the tiny hut had transformed into a cage. Her dreams of learning, of exploring the world beyond Kura, shattered like broken pottery. But I do not know this man, she argued, desperation creeping into her tone. I do not love him. Love will come in time, her father insisted. A woman's duty is to honor her family, to bring prosperity through marriage. Amina turned to her mother, pleading for an intervention, but the older woman simply cast her eyes downward. She had fought battles like these before and lost. That night, as the village prepared for the festival, Amina sat under the towering baobab tree, her heart aching with the weight of unwanted destiny. The stars blinked above her, indifferent to her sorrow. Ancestors, she whispered into the darkness, is this truly my fate? The wind responded, rustling the branches, carrying with it a sound, a distant cry, a wail so sorrowful it chilled her bones. She stood abruptly, scanning the horizon, but the village was peaceful, untouched by the eerie lament she had just heard. And then for the first time in her life, Amina felt it, the cold presence of something unseen watching her from the shadows. The journey to Chief Okon's estate was unlike anything Amina had ever experienced. The village faded behind her as the carriage rolled through dense forests and winding paths lined with towering trees that whispered to the wind. Her mother sat beside her in silence, hands clenched in her lap, eyes cast downward as though avoiding the weight of the decision that had been made for her daughter. Amina tried to find comfort in the rhythmic movement of the carriage wheels, but unease settled into her bones. The wailing she had heard the night before haunted her, a ghostly echo in her mind. Had she imagined it, or had the spirits truly spoken to her, warning her of something unseen? Hours passed before they reached the sprawling estate, a fortress of wealth hidden deep within the hills. The gates, adorned with gold, creaked open, revealing a grand courtyard where servants dressed in fine silk hurried to and fro. The mansion itself stood like a monument to excess, its tall pillars stretching toward the heavens, its carved doors bearing symbols Amina could not decipher. Chief Okon emerged from the entrance, his presence imposing. His dark robe shimmered in the afternoon sun, his rings glinting as he extended a hand toward Amina. He was older than she had imagined, his face lined with years of wisdom, or perhaps secrets too heavy to bear. "You are more beautiful than the stories claimed," he murmured, studying her. Amina suppressed a shudder. She had always imagined marriage to be something built on love, on mutual admiration, not obligation and debt. Her mother whispered words of blessing, bowing before the chief, but Amina could barely hear her over the loud beating of her own heart. As she was led into the mansion, she noticed something odd. The servants, though well-dressed, kept their heads low, their movements careful, as if walking on fragile glass. And then, as she stepped past the threshold, she felt it, a shift in the air, a heaviness that sat deep within the walls. Something was wrong. But what? That night, unable to sleep, Amina wandered the halls, her bare feet making no sound against the polished floors. She passed room after room, each door tightly shut, each corridor eerily quiet. The mansion, though grand, felt more like a prison than a home. Then, in the farthest wing, she heard it, a whisper, soft, barely audible, like a breath against the wind. She turned swiftly, her pulse quickening. A door stood ajar, candlelight flickering from within. And as she stepped closer, she saw something that made her blood run cold. A painting of a woman, strikingly familiar, locked behind iron bars. The painting haunted Amina. The woman's face, though locked behind iron bars, bore an uncanny resemblance to her own. Her heart raced as she stepped closer, her fingers trembling as they reached out to touch the cold metal frame. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows across the room, making the woman's painted eyes seem alive, as though they were pleading for help. "Who are you?" Amina whispered, her voice barely audible. The room offered no answers, only the faint creak of the wooden floor beneath her feet. She turned her gaze to the rest of the room, scanning for clues. It was a study, filled with shelves of ancient books and artifacts that seemed to belong to another era. A large desk sat in the center, its surface cluttered with papers, wheels, and a single ornate key. Her curiosity overpowered her fear. She reached for the key, its weight cold and heavy in her hand. What could it unlock? Before she could ponder further, a voice broke the silence. "What are you doing here?" Amina spun around, her heart leaping into her throat. It was Chief Okon, his towering figure framed by the doorway. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made her feel small. I couldn't sleep," she stammered, hiding the key behind her back. "I was exploring. This wing is off limits," he said, his voice low and measured. "You should return to your room." Amina nodded, her legs shaky as she moved past him. But as she walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that Chief Okon knew more than he was letting on. Back in her room, she examined the key under the dim light of a lantern. It was intricately designed, with symbols etched into its surface, symbols that looked eerily similar to those on the mansion's doors. The next morning, Amina decided to confront her mother. She found her in the garden, tending to the vibrant flowers that seemed to thrive despite the mansion's oppressive atmosphere. "Mother," Amina began, her voice firm, "who is the woman in the painting?" Her mother froze, her hands stealing over the petals of a hibiscus flower. She didn't look up. "You shouldn't concern yourself with such things," she said quietly. "But I need to know," Amina insisted. "She looks like me." "Why?" her mother sighed, finally meeting her daughter's gaze. There are secrets in this house, Amina. Secrets that are better left buried. Please, for your own safety, let it go. But Amina couldn't let it go. The image of the woman behind bars was seared into her mind, and the key in her possession felt like a burning weight. That night, she made a decision. She would uncover the truth no matter the cost. As the mansion slept, Amina crept through the halls, the key clutched tightly in her hand. She returned to the study, her heart pounding as she inserted the key into a hidden lock she had discovered earlier. The lock clicked and a hidden door swung open, revealing a narrow staircase that spiraled downward into darkness. With a deep breath, Amina descended, the air growing colder with each step. At the bottom, she found herself in a dimly lit chamber filled with old documents, artifacts, and more paintings, each depicting a woman who bore a striking resemblance to her. And then she saw it, a journal, its leather cover worn with age. She opened it, her eyes scanning the pages filled with elegant handwriting. The journal belonged to the woman in the painting. Her name was Adana, and she had been Chief Okon's first wife. The entries spoke of love, betrayal, and a curse that had plagued the family for generations. Amina's hands trembled as she read the final entry. They say the curse cannot be broken, but I refuse to believe it. If you are reading this, know that you are not alone. The truth is your weapon, and love is your shield. Fight, and you may yet be free. Amina closed the journal, her mind racing. The curse was real, and she was now a part of it, but she wouldn't let it define her. Amina's hands trembled as she clutched Adana's journal, the weight of its words sinking into her soul. A curse? A secret legacy of sorrow buried beneath gold and luxury. It was no wonder the mansion felt more like a tomb than a home. She flipped through the delicate pages, absorbing the tragic story of Chief Okon's first wife. Adana had once been as hopeful as Amina, stepping into the grandeur of this estate with dreams of love and prosperity. But soon, she had discovered the truth, a truth that had cost her everything. Amina ran her fingers over Adana's last entry, feeling the pain woven into the ink. If you are reading this, know that you are not alone. The truth is your weapon, and love is your shield. Fight, and you may yet be free. She had no choice now. She would uncover whatever lay hidden within this mansion. Steadying her breath, she looked around the secret chamber. The paintings, the ancient relics, the stacks of letters, all signs of a history deliberately erased from existence. But why? Her fingers brushed over an old wooden chest in the corner. Its lock rusted with age. She hesitated, then slid the key into place. It clicked open with ease, revealing layers of silk cloth and, beneath them, a stack of bound documents. She lifted the first page. It was brittle, yellowed with time, but the name at the top was unmistakable. Adana Okon. The document was a record of marriage, but something about it seemed off. The date was inconsistent with Chief Okon's known history. Amina frowned, flipping to the next sheet. It was a birth certificate. Her breath hitched. It wasn't for Adana, it was for a child born to Adana and Chief Okon. Amina's grip tightened. Had she just uncovered the missing heir? The whispers in the village, the hushed talks of Chief Okon's lost lineage suddenly made sense. Before she could fully process it, a loud creak sounded behind her. She whipped around. The journal clutched against her chest. Chief Okon stood at the doorway, his expression dark, unreadable. I warned you about secrets, Amina, he murmured, stepping forward. Amina stood her ground, her pulse racing. You lied, she said, voice firm. There was another before me. There was a child. Chief Okon sighed, but his eyes held no remorse. Some truths are meant to stay buried. Amina lifted the journal. Not anymore. Amina held her ground, the journal clutched tightly in her hands. Chief Okon's presence loomed before her, His expression unreadable, his eyes dark with something she couldn't quite place. Anger, fear, or perhaps resignation. She had uncovered the truth. There was no turning back now. The child, she said, voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. What happened to them? Chief Okon sighed, stepping deeper into the chamber, his fingers tracing the ancient relics that lined the shelves. You are too curious for your own good, Amina. Curious enough to see through your lies, she countered, lifting the journal. You tried to erase them. Adana, your first wife, your own blood. Why? Chief Okon exhaled slowly, as if weighing whether to indulge her defiance. Then, after a long pause, he gestured toward a worn leather chair across the room. Sit, he commanded. Amina hesitated, but she obeyed. She watched as he walked to the large desk and picked up an ornate dagger, a symbol of power among leaders in the region. He turned the blade over in his hands, his voice quiet when he finally spoke. There was a child, he admitted, his tone stripped of his usual authority. A son. Amina's heart pounded. He was meant to inherit everything. Chief Okon continued, his gaze distant. But the curse of this family does not allow heirs. It does not allow happiness. Amina frowned. The curse? You actually believe in it? Chief Okon let out a dry chuckle. Belief is irrelevant when the proof surrounds you. Every first wife of a chief in this lineage has suffered. Adana, she tried to escape it, to defy it, but in the end, the curse claimed her. Amina's fingers tightened around the journal. What happened to her son? The chief was silent for a long moment before his lips pressed into a thin line. He was taken. Amina gasped. Taken? By whom? The spirits, the gods, fate, I do not know. One night, he was in his crib. The next morning, he was gone. No footprints, no evidence, no sign of struggle, just gone. Amina's blood ran cold. She had heard stories of spirits stealing children, of curses stripping families of their lineage. But this was no mere folklore. This was a man's own child. She swallowed hard, then looked him in the eye. And you let it happen? Chief Okon flinched at the accusation. What could I have done? You could have fought. You think I did it? His voice rose, carrying years of buried regret. I searched for him. I tore apart this estate. I begged every priest, every diviner. I made offerings. I did everything. Silence stretched between them. Amina looked down at the journal, running her thumb over the final entry. The truth is your weapon, and love is your shield. Fight, and you may yet be free. Adana had believed the curse could be broken. Had she been wrong, or had she been silenced before she could prove it? Amina lifted her head, determination gleaming in her eyes. Then I will finish what Adana started. I will break this curse. Chief Okon stared at her, then let out a low, humorless laugh. You are brave, Amina, but bravery has never been enough. Amina straightened her spine. Then I will be something more. Amina knew she had stepped beyond the threshold of safety. She had defied Chief Okon, unearthed forbidden secrets, and challenged a curse that had long outlived its victims. But she refused to be another name whispered in lost history. She would fight. That night, as the moon cast silver light upon the mansion, Amina knelt before her candlelit desk, the journal open in front of her. She traced Adana's last words once more, repeating them like a silent prayer. The truth is your weapon, and love is your shield. Fight, and you may yet be free. But how could she fight something she couldn't see? She needed answers. She needed guidance. And there was only one person in the mansion who might still have the knowledge she sought. The old servant, Mama Halima. Mama Halima had been in Chief Okon's service for decades. She was quiet, wise, and always seemed to know more than she let on. Amina had seen the sadness in her eyes, the way she flinched at certain names, certain doors, If anyone understood the curse, it would be her. Early in the morning, before the estate stirred, Amina sought her out. She found the elderly woman tending to the fireplace in the servants' quarters, her gnarled hands moving slowly over the burning embers. Mama Halima, Amina said gently. The old woman turned, her gaze sharp despite her age. You should not be here, child. I need to know the truth, Amina said, about Adana, about the lost heir, about the curse. Mama Halima stiffened. You speak of dangerous things. I have no choice. Amina knelt beside her. I have seen the records. I have read Adana's words. I cannot turn back now. The fire crackled between them, filling the silence with restless energy. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Mama Halima sighed deeply. The curse, she murmured, was not born of the gods. It was born of betrayal. Amina's heart pounded. Betrayal? Mama Halima nodded. Generations ago, Chief Okon's ancestors took what was not theirs. They stole wealth, land, and power. And in doing so, they angered those who once ruled these lands, the priests, the diviners, the rightful keepers of balance. The spirits do not forgive such transgressions. Amina listened, hanging onto every word. They did not curse the land or the riches. Mama Halima continued. They cursed the legacy. No firstborn heir would ever inherit the chiefdom. Every attempt to continue the lineage would end in suffering. Amina shivered. Then Adana's child was taken by forces far beyond this world, Mama Halima whispered. Amina clenched her fist. But curses can be broken, can't they? There must be a way. Mama Halima met her gaze. Yes, but not without sacrifice. Amina swallowed hard. What kind of sacrifice? Mama Halima stared into the fire. You must find what was stolen. You must return it. And you must face the spirits themselves. The weight of her words settled upon Amina like a heavy cloak. She had uncovered the truth. Now she had to act. And the first trial was upon her. Would she be ready? Amina felt the weight of Mama Halima's words pressing into her soul. A sacrifice, a reckoning with the spirits themselves. Was she truly ready to face what had been buried for generations? The mansion, grand and gilded, felt suffocating now. Its pillars standing like sentinels, its halls echoing secret too dangerous to be spoken aloud. And yet, she had no choice. The truth had been unearthed, and now the spirits would demand their price. That night, she sat in her chambers, candlelight flickering across Adana's journal. Find what was stolen. Return it. Face the spirits. She took a deep breath. Where did it begin? Adana had spoken of something taken, a relic, a piece of history stripped from its rightful owners. Amina had seen the artifacts hidden in the chamber below the estate, the ancient symbols etched into gold and ivory. But which piece had started it all? She knew she couldn't trust Chief Okon to answer that, but perhaps there was someone else. The next morning, she sought out Mama Halima again, this time finding her in the temple by the estate's courtyard, a sacred place where prayers were whispered into the wind. Mama Halima, Amina called softly. The old woman turned, her eyes sharp, as though she had been waiting. I need to know what was stolen, Amina said, the object that started the curse. Mama Halima studied her for a long moment before nodding. Come, she said, leading Amina toward an aged shrine built into the earth. She knelt before it, pulling away a cloth that had concealed a single object, a golden mask. This is what was taken, Mama Halima whispered. This belonged to the priestess of the old kingdom. Chief Okon's ancestors seized it, defiling the sacred ground where it was kept. That act condemned his bloodline. Amina swallowed hard. The spirits will not be appeased unless it is returned. Mama Halima continued, you must bring it back to its resting place. Amina stared at the mask, its golden surface gleaming despite centuries of buried history. It was time. She reached for the mask, the metal cooled against her palms. And as she lifted it, the wind howled, long and low. A warning carried through the air. The spirits had awoken. Amina clutched the golden mask tightly, her pulse racing as the wind howled around her. The spirits were awake. She could feel their unseen presence pressing against her, watching, waiting. Mama Halima placed a wrinkled hand on her shoulder. "You have taken the first step," she whispered, "but the journey is not yet complete." Amina steadied her breath. "Where must I go?" Mama Halima lifted her gaze to the distant mountains beyond the estate. "You must return the mask to the shrine of the forgotten." Deep within the sacred caves, Amina had heard of the shrine before, buried in folklore and village whispers. It was a place few dared to visit, a place where the spirits of wronged ancestors lingered, restless and vengeful. "I will go," she declared. Chief Okon was nowhere to be seen as Amina prepared for the journey. She wrapped the mask carefully in cloth, tucked Adana's journal beneath her garments, and stepped into the cold morning air. With only Mama Halima as her guide, she set off toward the mountains. The path was treacherous. Thorns clawed at her skin, jagged rocks threatened to trip her, and the eerie silence of the forest filled her with dread. The deeper they walked, the heavier the air became, as though the spirits themselves were pressing against her soul, testing her resolve. By the time they reached the entrance of the cave, the sun had dipped behind the hills, painting the sky in blood-red streaks. "We are here," Mama Halima said, her voice barely above a whisper. Amina peered into the darkness beyond the cave's entrance. She swallowed hard, gripping the mask tighter. This was it, the moment of truth. She stepped inside. Amina stepped into the darkness of the cave, the air thick with an eerie silence. The weight of the golden mask in her hands felt heavier now, as if the spirits themselves were pressing against her. Mama Halima followed closely behind, her steps careful, her breath slow. The walls of the cave shimmered with ancient carving, symbols of a forgotten time, warnings etched into stone. Amina traced her fingers over them, feeling the grooves that told the story of betrayal, the theft of sacred relics, and the wrath of unseen forces. Then, without warning, the wind howled through the cave, extinguishing their lantern. Amina gasped, her pulse quickening as the shadows swallowed them whole. "They know why we are here," Mama Halima whispered. Amina held the mask tightly. "What do I do?" A deep voice, neither male nor female, echoed through the chamber, reverberating through her bones. "You carry the weight of the past. What makes you worthy of redemption?" Amina steadied herself, knowing she had one chance to prove her intent. "I am not here for power or forgiveness. I am here to restore what was lost." Silence stretched. Then a gust of wind swirled around her, lifting the mask from her hands. It hovered in the air, spinning slowly before settling onto a carved pedestal in the center of the cave. The cave trembled, the spirits whispered, and then, as suddenly as it had begun, the howling ceased. The golden mask glowed softly, its power returned to the sacred shrine. Amina felt the shift, an unspoken acceptance, a peace settling into the air. She had done it, but was it truly over? The cave stood silent, the golden mask resting upon the pedestal, glowing faintly in the dim light. Amina exhaled, the weight of centuries lifting from her shoulders. She had done it. The spirits had accepted the return of what was stolen. Mama Halima stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Amina's shoulder. "You have restored balance," she whispered. "The curse has lost its hold." Amina felt it, the shift in the air, a newfound peace, a stillness that had not existed in this estate before. The whispers were gone. The heaviness in her chest had vanished. But what of Chief Okon? What of the legacy he had tried to uphold through lies and silence? Amina returned to the mansion, her footsteps lighter, her heart steadier. When she entered, she found Chief Okon waiting in the grand hall, his expression unreadable. "It is done," Amina said firmly. Chief Okon studied her for a long moment, then let out a slow breath. "And so, the debt has been repaid, he murmured. She met his gaze. The curse may be broken, but the damage you caused remains. He nodded slowly. Perhaps, but he paused. You are the first to defy it. Amina smiled, knowing that she had not simply broken a curse, she had rewritten her own destiny. As the days passed, the village spoke of the change in the wind, the shift in fate. The mansion no longer felt haunted. The servants walked freely, their whispers no longer laced with fear. Amina had restored what was lost, and in doing so, she had learned the greatest lesson of all. True power is not found in wealth, but in courage, truth, and the willingness to stand against injustice. She had been sold into a legacy of darkness, but she had emerged as its light. And so, with the spirits at peace and the truth revealed, Amina stepped into her new life, not as a bride, but as a woman who had reclaimed her freedom. The golden bride was no longer cursed. She was finally free. The end. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content like this.